The chambers of the Galactic Council floated in silence, a cathedral of glass and starlight suspended over the nebula of Serene's Veil. Delegates of 1,000 species gathered in concentric tiers, each seat pulsing with bioluminescent light that flickered like heartbeats. The air was thick, humming with the low resonance of translation matrices. But that morning, no translator dared speak. A figure stood at the center dais, human, tall, uniform crisp as blade edges, eyes that burned with something too calm to be comforting. Admiral Ryan Cole, commander of Earth's Interstellar Defense Network, the man whose name the galaxy had whispered since the siege of Arides Prime. Before him hovered the shimmering hologram of the Council President, a four-eyed being of translucent skin and fractal veins. Admiral Cole, it rasped in a voice that rippled through the chamber, we regret the Terran fleet's unilateral action in the Arvian zone. The extermination of a Council species without approval is an act of war. Cole didn't blink. I didn't ask for your approval, he said quietly. His voice didn't echo, it cut through the stillness like a scalpel. Earth acted because your Council didn't. The silence deepened. 1,000 translators hesitated, uncertain whether to translate or mourn. The president's eyes pulsed blue, the sign of suppressed rage. Do you understand the consequences of your statement? This council was established to prevent chaos. To preserve peace. Cole took a step forward. His boots clicked softly against the transparent floor, beneath which a swirl of stars turned like dying embers. Peace, he said. Tell that to the colony ships you abandoned on Tarsus. Tell it to the children suffocating under Arvian blockade fire. We asked for help, for arbitration. You called for patience. And while you debated trade protocols, they burned our sky. Murmurs rippled across the tiers, the shrill chitter of the cauldron, the deep hum of the Lethari, the clicking chorus of insectoid envoys. Every species reacted differently to human anger, some with fear, others with curiosity. None with comprehension. The council president leaned forward, voice low. You humans speak of suffering as if you invented it. You think your pain makes you exceptional? Cole's stare hardened. No, he said. It makes us dangerous. That was when he reached into his coat and placed something on the dais, a small, silver communicator bearing the insignia of the Terran Coalition. He pressed one button, and a recording began to play. A human voice, trembling but resolute, echoed through the chamber. This is Ambassador Julia Reed of Earth. The Arvians have boarded the diplomatic vessel Odyssey. They've executed my staff. The council promised intervention, but no one's coming. Tell them Earth remembers. Then, a blaster crack. Static. End of transmission. No one moved. The echo of that final gunshot seemed to live on, vibrating in every molecule of the council hall. Cole stood in the silence that followed, eyes cast down at the little device, now scorched and silent. Then he looked up again. Diplomacy, he said, ended with her. He turned, walking back toward the exit. Security drones hovered uncertainly, their targeting systems flickering. No one dared move against him. The chamber remained frozen, a galaxy paralyzed by guilt and fear. Admiral Cole, the president's voice trembled now, this path leads to annihilation. Humanity cannot stand against the entire council fleet. Cole paused at the threshold. The great doors of the chamber began to open, flooding the hall with the cold blue light of distant stars. He didn't turn back. Then we'll take the galaxy with us, he said. And he left. Hours later, across the Milky Way, the human homeworld glowed with a tension that could be felt even from orbit. Terran Command's main citadel, the Atlas Spire, pulsed with activity. Screens streamed with encrypted transmissions, military orders, and evacuation alerts. Inside the command chamber, Captain Sarah Vaughn, Cole's second-in-command, stared at a holographic map of the local sectors. Entire fleets were moving, reshaping the strategic lines of power. Admiral's speech just hit the feeds, said Vaughn's communications officer. Every relay picked it up. The council's calling it a declaration of isolation. Sarah exhaled sharply. Isolation? They make it sound like a vacation. They don't realize what he's really done. At the far end of the room, the hollow doors hissed open. Cole entered, still wearing the same expression of iron calm. Vaughn straightened. "Sir," she said. "The Council's mobilizing diplomatic channels. They're demanding clarification." Cole approached the table and tapped the map. Systems flared in red across the holographic sphere: Arides, Tarsus, and the Arvian border worlds. "They've had their clarification," he said. "We're done talking." Vaughn hesitated. "Sir, humanity's not ready for this. We don't have enough ships. We don't have allies." Cole turned his gaze toward the viewport, where the crescent of Earth hung beyond the city haze. "We don't need allies," he said softly. "We need conviction." The lights dimmed as the war alert sounded, a single, deep pulse reverberating through the tower's walls. Humanity, for the first time in galactic history, had withdrawn from the Council's diplomatic accords. Every treaty, every trade pact, every law. Earth had gone dark. Across the galaxy, panic spread like radiation through the great Council worlds. The neural feeds of the Olaris hub, the galaxy's communication nexus, overflowed with breaking transmissions. Human ambassadors recalled from all sectors. Council fleets on high alert. Earth enacts total communication blackout. Diplomatic archives purged by Terran AI. On the glittering capital world of Koresh, the Council's inner circle gathered in emergency session. Alien leaders whispered furiously, their voices overlapping in a storm of fear. "They can't possibly survive alone," one hissed. "Perhaps not," said another. "But they don't plan to survive. They plan to end this." And far away, in the black silence of deep space, a single Terran warship drifted in orbit above a forgotten moon. Its name glowed faintly against its hull, TSV Vengeance. Inside, Admiral Cole watched the stars through the command glass, silent, unmoving. He could feel the weight of humanity's choice, a species that had begged, negotiated, and pleaded for peace, now choosing silence as its final weapon. Captain Vaughn approached quietly. "Orders, sir?" Cole's reflection stared back at him, framed by the void. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We'll show them what peace costs when they break it." The stars flickered, as though afraid to shine too close to humanity's shadow. And thus began the last chapter of diplomacy, the first act of something far darker. The galaxy had gone quiet. Not the kind of quiet born from peace, the kind that follows the snap of a blade. Trade routes fell silent. Embassies went dark. Terran signals, once woven through the Council's networks, had vanished like smoke into vacuum. At first, the Council thought it was a bluff, that Admiral Cole was posturing, buying time for political leverage. But within hours, every human presence beyond Sol had withdrawn. Orbital stations self-destructed, leaving only drifting debris fields and encrypted fragments no one could decipher. Then the silence began to change. It started speaking back. On the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship Arcturon, President Jaron floated amid a sphere of light, flanked by his security advisors. The Council's best cryptologists were replaying intercepted transmissions, faint bursts of static from the Terran border sectors. "Listen carefully," said the technician, a thin, trembling Lethari with glassy, opalescent skin. "Each burst repeats at an exact 23-second interval. We assumed it was random jamming. But when we decoded the waveform..." He touched a control crystal. A low, rhythmic pulse filled the chamber. Then words. Cold, human, mechanical. Silence is compliance. You were warned. The chamber froze. Jaron's voice was thin. "Are you certain this originates from the Terran network?" "Yes, Counselor. From all of them. Every frequency. Simultaneously." Jaron's translucent fingers twitched. "Then the humans have weaponized their own absence." Light years away, at the Terran Command Citadel in orbit around Mars, Captain Sarah Vaughn stood before a holographic globe of red stars, the Council systems surrounding Earth. She could feel their fear bleeding through the void. The Council didn't understand what Cole was doing, that was the point. Cole stood beside her, hands clasped behind his back, expression carved from stone. Status of Operation Erebus, he asked. 74 sleeper satellites online, Admiral, Vaughn replied. Each programmed for signal suppression and counterintelligence. We'll be invisible before the Council even locates our ghost transmissions. Cole nodded. Good. They'll think we're hiding. But we're watching. She hesitated. Sir, the rest of the galaxy already sees us as aggressors. If we keep escalating. We're not escalating, Cole interrupted quietly. We're erasing their idea of control. They've spent centuries pretending diplomacy equals peace. It doesn't. It's just another form of occupation. He turned toward the viewport. Beyond Mars, the glinting silhouettes of human warships, the Resolute, the Titan, the Vigilant Dawn, formed a ghost fleet against the stars. Silent. Waiting. On the Council world of Koresh, the panic had metastasized. Reports poured in: power grids failing across human sectors, communication buoys destroyed, merchant convoys stranded. Ambassador Keldran of the Valley stood before the emergency assembly. They're cutting us off from themselves. No messages, no trade, no treaties. Do you realize what that means? They're dismantling the galaxy's infrastructure just to deny us the illusion of control. Another delegate hissed. Then we invade. We force them to talk. Invade Earth? Keldran's crest twitched. Have you forgotten the siege of Erides? The Terrans burned a fleet of 60 ships with 8 outdated destroyers. Their fleet is small, another growled. Their hatred is not. The room descended into chaos, accusations, fear, half-truths. But even as they argued, far beyond their world, something vast moved in the dark. In the Perseus Rim, a Council patrol detected a Terran signature, an unregistered vessel drifting near a dead moon. The ship appeared damaged, engines offline. Commander Roth, of the Jalari Defense Corps, ordered an approach. Open a channel, he barked. Static answered. The patrol ship drew closer, its sensors sweeping the hull. The name glowed faintly beneath the carbon scoring TSV Vengeance. Roth sneered. One of their relics. Prepare boarding teams. But as his vessel neared, the Vengeance's lights flickered on. One by one. No distress beacons. No heat signatures. Just a single transmission burst that hit every console simultaneously. Do not enter the silence. Roth frowned. What in the? Then the stars vanished. The Vengeance erupted in a surge of electromagnetic energy that shredded sensors, crippled engines, and erased every digital system within range. When the light faded, the patrol ship drifted helpless, its crew screaming in darkness. Somewhere within that silence, a voice whispered through the void, not through radio, not through comms, but inside their neural links. Earth does not negotiate. The patrol was never heard from again. Back at Mars Command, Cole watched the report unfold in real time. They triggered the trap, Vaughn said softly. The Archeron has declared the Perseus sector a Terran exclusion zone. They're terrified. Cole didn't answer. He was staring at an old photograph resting beside his console, a group of diplomats, laughing outside the Odyssey, the Terran embassy ship destroyed months ago. Julia Reed's smile was faint, half caught in sunlight. Vaughn followed his gaze. You're still thinking about her. She believed in them, Cole said. In the idea that the Council wanted peace. She died waiting for proof. Vaughn lowered her eyes. You ended it for her. No, Cole said quietly. I ended it because I realized she was right, but too late. Diplomacy isn't peace. It's permission. And we're done asking. He turned back to the holomap. Phase 2 begins now. The orders went out in silence, encrypted, undetectable, perfectly synchronized. Across the solar system, Terran fleets engaged stealth protocols. Orbital shipyards went dark. Every Terran colony, from Europa to Proxima, vanished from open sensors. Then came the broadcast. Every Council world received the same message, untraceable, brief, chilling. The Terran coalition withdraws from galactic governance. All incursions into Terran space will be met with terminal silence. We are done speaking. The message carried no face, no signature. Just the insignia of Earth, a blue sphere wreathed in shadow. Within hours, 23 Council fleets mobilized toward Sol. In the command chamber of the TSV Atlas, Vaughn's voice was taut. They're coming, sir. Full armadas from 5 sectors. Estimates put them at over 400 ships. Cole's reply was calm. Then we finally have their attention. He activated the central display. A massive projection unfolded, a swarm of Terran vessels, smaller, older, but eerily coordinated. Each bore new transponder codes, Project Silence. They think this is war, Cole said. It's not. It's revelation. We'll show them what humanity becomes when we stop pretending to be civilized. Vaughn hesitated. And if we lose? Cole looked at her, and for the first time, there was something almost human in his eyes again. Then they'll remember us, he said. Not as diplomats. As a warning. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, alarms blared. Long-range sensors showed Terran fleets appearing and then disappearing all across the outer systems. No weapons fire. No visible attacks. Just vanishings. Entire reconnaissance squadrons entering Terran space and never returning. Rumors spread like wildfire that the humans had created stealth drives invisible to time, that they were rewriting space itself. The galaxy trembled not from war but from not knowing where it had begun. President Jaran convened a final emergency council. They've severed all ties, all data, all communication. We are blind, he said. And the humans, they see everything. One of his aides whispered, what do we do? Jaran turned toward the star map, where Earth glowed faintly at the center, small, blue, defiant. We wait, he said softly. And we pray they speak again. But they wouldn't. For humanity had chosen silence. And silence, in the void, was louder than any war. The Council armadas arrived in the Sol system under a veil of fear. 400 ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, and destroyers drifted through the black, their silver hulls reflecting the pale light of Jupiter's storms. No resistance. No transmissions. No sign of life. It was as if the system itself were holding its breath. Admiral Jaran of the Council fleet stood before the vast panoramic glass of the flagship Archeron, staring at the small blue marble ahead Earth. A world that had once begged for recognition, now surrounded by silence so absolute it felt like gravity. Are we receiving any signals? He asked. The comms officer's tendrils quivered. None, Admiral. All human frequencies remain dead. No radar echoes. No defense grids active. Jaran's eyes narrowed. Then where are they? No one answered. On the far side of the moon, hidden in the shadows, Earth's silence waited. Within the subterranean fortress of the Atlas Spire Command, Admiral Ryan Cole watched the Council fleets glide closer. Holographic projections painted the room in blue fire. Every ship. Every movement. Every heartbeat. Phase 3 ready, reported Captain Sarah Vaughn. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the pressure of what was coming. All satellite relays are synchronized. The planet-wide EM shields are primed. Cole nodded slowly. Hold until my mark. He stepped forward to the command viewport, gazing up through the armored glass at the moonlit clouds. You ever notice how quiet Earth gets before a storm, Captain? Vaughn gave a faint, grim smile. Yes, sir. That's the part that scares me. Good, Cole said. It should. Out in orbit, the Archeron broadcasted a final hail. This is the Galactic Council fleet. Humanity, by authority of the Universal Charter, you are ordered to stand down and submit to investigation. Failure to comply will result in. The message died mid-sentence. The stars flickered. Then vanished. Every system aboard every Council ship went dark. Engines stalled. Lights dimmed. Even the emergency lumens flickered out, leaving 400 ships drifting blind in the void. Jaron's voice cut through the black. Report. What is this? No one could answer, their consoles were dead. Then, one by one, screens flickered back to life. But instead of status readouts, every display showed the same thing, a single image. Earth, seen from orbit, wreathed in blue haze. And across it, in bold Terran script. We asked for peace. You gave us silence. Now, you'll live in it. Inside the command fortress, Cole gave a single nod. Execute. Vaughn pressed the command rune. Around Earth, hundreds of hidden satellites came alive, forming a web of pure electromagnetic distortion. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was worse. Within seconds, every council ship lost its connection to subspace. Communication arrays failed. Quantum beacons blinked out. The entire fleet was cut off, not just from each other, but from the rest of the galaxy. What have they done? A Letari officer screamed. Jaren watched helplessly as navigation systems collapsed. They weren't just jammed, they were erased. The Council fleet was stranded in the solar system, light years from any reinforcement. And then came the voices. Human voices. Whispering through the static. You called it peace. You called it law. We called it survival. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, rising into a storm of echoing memory. These weren't transmissions, they were recordings. Fragments of humanity's cries for help, every plea the Council had ignored, played back in endless loop. The fleets listened as the ghosts of diplomacy screamed through their systems. Back in Atlas Command, Vaughn's hands trembled. Sir, this is everything. Every moment they betrayed us. Cole's expression didn't change. It's not vengeance. It's remembrance. She looked at him, tears brimming. And when it's done? When they understand, he said softly, we'll turn off the silence. But what if they don't? He met her gaze. Then history ends here. 3 hours later, chaos reigned among the trapped armadas. Some ships fired on their own to signal distress. Others attempted blind jumps, vanishing into the void, never reappearing. The rest simply drifted, powerless, waiting for answers that would never come. On the Arcturon, Jaren stared at the image of Earth on his console. The blue planet pulsed faintly, like a beating heart. They're not attacking, his second-in-command whispered. They're just watching. Jaren closed his eyes. No, he said. They're teaching. On Earth's surface, Cole stood alone on the balcony of the Atlas Spire, looking out across the midnight ocean. The sky shimmered faintly with the auroras created by the energy fields above. Vaughn approached quietly. Command reports total containment. Council fleets are immobilized. Some are trying to negotiate. Cole turned to her, the light catching the hard lines of his face. Diplomacy is dead, Captain. What they're offering isn't surrender, it's fear. She nodded. So what now? Cole was silent for a long time, his gaze distant. Finally, he said, we end it the way it should have begun. He walked back into the command center. Patch me through to the fleet. His voice filled every Terran vessel, calm and resonant, echoing through the shadows of orbit. To all Terran ships, this is Admiral Ryan Cole. For years, we begged for their peace. We died for their politics. Today, humanity has no council. No chains. No lies. We stand alone, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Let this silence remind them who we are. We are the voice they ignored. We are the storm they created. And we will never kneel again. Vaughn lowered her head, whispering the words as if in prayer. Never kneel again. Above them, the satellites dimmed. Slowly, the distortion field faded, and the stars returned, cold, bright, indifferent. The Council ships powered up again, systems rebooting. But the message lingered on their screens. Remember Earth. No retaliation came. No missiles. No war. The council withdrew in silence, shaken beyond comprehension. For the first time in galactic history, a single world had severed itself from the universe and survived. Weeks later, rumors rippled through the trade routes that the humans had built something beneath their oceans, a structure of impossible energy. That they had discovered a technology capable of folding communication itself. That they were preparing not for war, but for departure. When asked why Earth had done what it did, one message was intercepted: untraceable, faint, human. You spoke to us like children. You ruled us like subjects. But you forgot, silence isn't weakness. It's the sound before creation. In the end, the Council renamed the Sol system a restricted anomaly. No ships entered again. And the last record of humanity in the galactic archives read only one sentence. The species that ended diplomacy and taught the stars to fear silence.